listening to the best community college radio station in the nation. Winner of 5 awards from the Intercollegiate Broadcasting System.
FM,
HD,
Amazon Echo,
Google Home,
the TuneIn Radio app,
the iHeartRadio app,
and nccradio.org.
This is 90.3 WHPC.
WHPC HD. Garden City,
Long Island,
New York. .3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College, and also winner of the 2019 Community College Radio Station of the Year, according to the IBS people. Thank you, IBS people, and thank you also our listeners for helping us get over the top, so to speak, so we could win that award. That's a pretty damn good award, brother, I have to say myself. So welcome to another edition of From the Press Box. I am Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is award-winning sports writer and my brother, Tim Leonard. Hello, Timothy. How are you doing?
Good morning, brother. How are you?
I'm doing okay, and we are talking sports every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., part of the WHPC Sports Talk family, which includes Sports Talk Mondays at 5 p.m., Tuesdays at 5 p.m., Thursdays at 9 p.m., and Fridays at 3 p.m. So lots of sports here at WHPC. I hope you can listen to them. Of course, our show and many of the shows end up on Spreaker afterwards as a podcast. So if you want to listen that way, we don't mind as long as you listen. As long as you listen, brother. That's all that matters. So how was your week, brother?
Always good to have listeners.
My tooth cracked a little bit yesterday. Broke off a little bit.
You might want to go to the dentist, brother.
Well, now I can. So now I have health care, so I can.
Very good.
So, but it still stinks. So,
well,
what can you do?
the perils of growing older, brother. What are you going to do?
I don't know if it's just growing older or it's just my tooth.
Well, the perils of not brushing your teeth.
I brush my teeth every day. Our family does have a bad history with teeth.
Well, that's all the more reason to be vigilant about them.
Dad had bad teeth. You've had bad teeth.
All the more reason to be vigilant.
Me, I'm sort of in the middle. I don't know.
Yes. Brother.
Anyway, what do you want to start off with, brother? What's the first story on the hit parade here?
Well, we got plenty of football going on, brother.
Do we really care?
Yes, we really care.
Why?
Why? Because it's a big deal.
But why wouldn't we start off with baseball? Because baseball starts in a month.
What would you
the
like
Mets
to
are going to be the
with,
NL East champions this year. You know?
Feel free to ignore me completely and do whatever you want. So.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time.
I certainly wouldn't.
So but I mean, think about it. You know, right now, football is not even close to being starting of a new season.
Well, the free agency period starts Wednesday, brother, and teams are allowed to start talking to free agents today. So Wednesday will be the big frenzy, like it usually is with NFL free agency, where players are signing and teams are changing their fortunes in a matter of minutes.
Right.
The Jets obviously need offensive line help around Sam Darnold, and will they go for Le'Veon Bell to give them a desperately needed playmaker at running back? That remains to be seen.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears might be going after Le'Veon Bell as well, because apparently they are looking for a new running back, which I don't agree with, but I don't run the Bears. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. The Giants are making some moves. They made a trade. They traded Olivier Vernon and got themselves back one of the better offensive guards in the league.
Right.
So, but this is all big stuff. This is all. Yeah. This is
to me, baseball is much more important right now than football.
Well,
because football hasn't happened until September.
You make the executive decision like you usually do.
Thank you, brother. I think let's start off with Tom Seaver. I mean, I think that's still a story. I think also there was a big article. Jane McManus in today's Daily News wrote an article about the women's World Cup team. And I want to get your opinion about it because it goes back to the 1999 team.
They're suing U.S. Soccer again,
right?
And it's kind of ridiculous, but we can get to that a little bit later.
But
that's another big story. There's a lot of big stories this week.
Yeah, well, I don't know where to start. Where do you want to start, brother? A-Rod gets engaged with J-Lo.
And I just before we came into the studio saw something on Yahoo Sports that apparently Jose Canseco is now saying that A-Rod cheated on Jennifer Lopez with Jose Canseco's ex-wife. So he's doing all this stuff like he did when the whole steroid thing happened, and Canseco put himself out there as the voice of truth and swore that he was telling, and whether or not he was, nobody ever really kind of took him seriously.
No, but then you found out everything in his book was like true. Well, this is the first one.
But now he claimed on Twitter that he would take a polygraph test to prove what he is saying is true, that A-Rod was cheating on J-Lo. Meanwhile, A-Rod gave J-Lo this monstrous ring that is just, I'm sorry, it's too big. And I'm sure there's probably several women out there that will say, oh, the ring can never be too big, which my friend Marianne is probably among them. But it's absurd. The ring is 15 carats. It could cost more than $1 million. How big a ring does any woman need?
Well, A-Rod, let's be honest, he's worth all this money.
It doesn't mean you need to
might as well
spend
dump
it all
somewhere
on a ring.
Why not?
It's idiotic.
I don't know. I see him on Shark Tank now. He's expanding.
But what does that say he loves her more? I mean, come on. Because he spends $1 million on a ring.
Oh, some people only mark by the amount of money, brother.
It's just stupid. And the ring is just it's enormous.
And that's the engagement ring. The wedding ring will probably.
The wedding ring will be something simple, because you don't want the wedding ring to take away from the engagement ring when it's something that enormous.
I don't know.
Where's she going to wear that? She can't wear that on stage.
No, she can't.
And so
she'll do something with her hand. It'll go.
Yeah, exactly. She'll do some dance moves. She'll be moving her hands around. And all of a sudden, the ring will fly into the audience, and you'll never see her again.
Well, you know what I saw?
See it on eBay.
There was a picture I saw. It was the only reason I actually just wanted to bring it up is because I saw this picture. It was a picture of when Mark Anthony and her were still married, and they went to go visit A-Rod at some field or something, and there's a picture of him in the middle, and she's like next to him so lovingly, and Mark Anthony looks like he was like not even supposed to be there.
Like he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, it was just
Mark Anthony has that look in a lot of pictures, though.
Yeah, so
I've noticed that over the years.
I thought that was kind of funny.
He's very disengaged in photographs.
So, the Islanders, brother. Let's go.
Now we're going to hockey?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm going by the story, not going by the sport.
Well, you just said you wanted to talk about Tom Seaver. You didn't say a word about him.
Well, then we
come on, focus.
Okay, we'll bring up Tom Seaver. Tom Seaver was announced last week that he has dementia, and I guess it's affected him more now. The fact that the family has said that he will not make any more public appearances.
Right. Which tells you it's pretty serious.
At this point, because usually there's markers along the way with dementia and Alzheimer's. And obviously, if the family isn't going to allow him to be seen, like Bud Harrelson, he's got Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. There are certain things he will still go out with, but he's usually with his family now.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody is diagnosed with dementia, they'll still have lucid moments,
right?
And moments where you'll look at them or look at the person and say, wait, they have dementia? They look perfectly fine.
Right.
Pat Summitt, the Tennessee women's basketball coach, was a perfect example of that. She was actually coaching still after she was diagnosed with dementia, but that was her last season because the disease it happens pretty quick. And it really obviously is debilitating because the people who get it or suffer from it, it's just living life becomes that much more difficult because you don't have memory.
Right, and the memories you do have usually involve family, people who've been with you for a long time, and the fact that the family won't allow him out with even them, Nancy, his wife,
right,
his 2 kids, his 2 daughters, you would think that we can at least bring him out because that's what they're doing right now with Bud Harrelson a little bit, even though I'm sure that's coming to a point and then soon also. Right. Especially on the 69th Mets anniversary, the 50th anniversary, there's going to be actually many celebrations, not just at Citi Field, but many. Art Shamsky has a book coming out. Wayne Coffey has a book coming out. He's going to be doing.
I'm sure lots of players from that team have books coming out this year.
Why not? And it was a magical year. My friend Rich Catino's book on the 69 Mets coming out. So it was a magical year because think about back then, you didn't go from 1962 to 1969 and win the World Series. when you start out as a
No, I mean, the expansion teams back then, it took a long time
now,
to
now,
build up
now
a team.
look at the Las Vegas Knights.
Yeah, but that was kind of an aberration because with that team, they were able to draft a lot of pretty good players, and a lot of those guys had career years all in the same year. So there was a good bit of good fortune there. But even 7 years for the Mets back then, that was quick. In baseball, you can look at teams, like when the Colorado Rockies started up. I mean, that team, they were able to bring in some younger players relatively early in the process. Guys like Vinny Castilla and Larry Walker and guys like they just determined that we're just going to out-hit you because that's how our park plays. But in baseball, if with expansion, it's easier, obviously, for a team to get good quickly because you can just go out in free agency and buy players. Back then in baseball, there was no free agency, so it wasn't like Joan Payson could just open up the checkbook and say, okay, well, we need whoever, I don't even remember who was back, but we need Joe Torre because Joe Torre was an MVP right around then somewhere. Or we need 60 in the 60s, whatever player was. Well,
they
the
made a
MVPs
trade
back
in
then.
'69. The Mets got Don Clendenon, and that
right.
was the
well,
guy
who waswas great for them.
Right,
He wasn't a great player,
no,
but he was great for the Mets.
He was perfect for the Mets. Actually.
So but that was the only way to get better back then was to make trades, and the Mets didn't have much to trade.
Nope.
So you basically had to wait your turn and tell your fans, look, we're not going to be very good for a decade or so, but things are going to happen.
Yep.
And then the Mets wound up winning the World Series 7 years after they started. So,
and the big discussion for Met fans has been, a statue for Tom Seaver.
Yeah, that's gaining ground quickly.
Now the problem is, how fast can they do this? It usually takes a while. First, you have to design it, and then you have to figure out where you're going to put it. And,
the design part is easy. All you got to do is find a picture of Seaver that is what is the definitive picture of Tom Seaver?
His knee on the ground pitching. When he's in the wind up.
When he's just after throwing,
right after
when he's taking the big follow through towards the plate.
Yeah, that's
all right. So there you go. That's and bring that to a sculptor. Figure out what you want the sculpture to be made out of, and get it done.
Yeah, and I
It'll
think
take a while, but get started now.
The best place to put it is, to me, having never driven to Citi Field since it became. I always take the train, but it's right down the train. Right when you get down to the bottom of the train walkway.
Right. Yeah. In that area.
That'd be
in that area
place.
would be the perfect because that's the main concourse for the field anyway.
Yeah. That's it leads up to it.
Yeah. Even people who park have to kind of go through that area or around that area, and you can't have it. You're going to have one statue, so you have to make that a destination.
Right, and that's what you want.
It's not like you can put one on one side and one on the other. No. You're going to have to say, all right, this is where it is, and if you want to see it, here it is.
Yeah, and stadiums need that. In
I think so.
Busch Stadium in
St. Louis.
In St. Louis, there's a Stand the Man. There's a giant thing. Which I think we have a picture of us there. We went there. I know that.
Yeah.
And that's it. Also becomes a meeting place. Oh, meet by the Tom Seaver statue or whatever. So
like old Yankee Stadium, everybody would meet by the big bat.
That's right.
So because there are no statues at Yankee Stadium.
Well, they're all inside.
Well, yeah.
Well, for a while now they have their own entrance and exit, but
now they have the museum in the stadium in the new stadium. So, but that the big bat used to be the place, and in Chicago they have a Harry Carey statue, and most stadiums. And I really haven't done any research on this, but I can fairly safely say most stadiums have at least one statue.
Right.
Pittsburgh, they have statues. Like you said, the Cubs have a statue. Cleveland, I'm pretty sure there's a Bob Feller statue outside the stadium.
Right.
But that's been another way besides retiring a number to honor great players. I'll give you Tony Gwynn has a statue in San Diego. Right. When I was out there last year, I took a couple pictures of it. That is outside, back behind left field, but that in that stadium, you have to go through that concourse to get into the stadium. So it was a good place to put it. But obviously Tony Gwynn is by far the greatest Padre in history. Manny Machado is going to have to wait a few years before he's mentioned in that conversation.
Manny's got a lot to prove.
A lot. He's got $300 million to prove.
Yeah,
but that is something that I think for the Mets, and especially when you look at all-time great Mets, I really don't think there's anybody that compares with Tom Seaver. Even though he had the stint in with the Reds and then he went to the White Sox. Who was I don't who would you call the second best Met of all time? I don't even know.
Piazza.
No, he didn't play long enough for the Mets. He played like 5 years for them. That's like saying Reggie Jackson is an all-time great Yankee. He's not. He's an all-time great player.
Considering what the Mets have and don't have, I would say Piazza. He brought them to the playoffs.
But
I mean, the World Series.
To me, it's got to be somebody.
John Franco, maybe, but he,
To me, it's got to be. I mean, to me, it's almost you got almost have to say David Wright because to me, it has to be somebody who came up with your organization.
It'd be David Wright, but the last 3 years of his life as a player,
Career.
I should say,
as
a life,
still very much alive.
Weren't very impressive, and the Mets made it in 2006 and 2015, and he barely played on the 2015 team. So, he is a homegrown player, and they're definitely going to retire his number one day. And he's going to be around the Mets for life if he wants. If they're smart enough to do that,
he'll have a job with them. But that's kind of my point with the Mets is that why isn't there a statue already of Tom Seaver? Because he is clearly the best player that the franchise has ever produced or ever had. And if it's that clear. Why wasn't this done a long time ago? Why wasn't this done to coincide with the new stadium opening?
I agree with that, and we all know the Wilpons went Brooklyn Dodger crazy because they grew up in Brooklyn,
and that's fine. They can make the stadium any way they want.
And I actually have no problem with having a Brooklyn Dodger history and a New York Giant history. If you're going to have National League history of the teams that played in New York, you would want that,
right?
But how do you? You're right. How do you not? How do you not have something with Tom Seaver for all these years?
To me, I look at that stadium, and like you said, the Wilpons obviously were influenced by Ebbets Field in the constructions of Citi Field, and that's fine. I don't have any problems with that. They, they're the ones paying the money, or the city was paying the money, obviously. But
actually,
how much did the Wilpons pay?
It's their stadium, just the way Yankee Stadium is their stadium. That was part of the deal in 2009.
I don't know. I'm sure there was some tax money involved.
There was some because they actually had to do things.
But my point is that yes, they were obviously influenced by the Brooklyn Dodgers, and there are tributes in the stadium to the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants, as there should be, because it's the history of the city as well. But also have some pride in your own team.
I agree.
Tom Seaver, greatest Met ever. He should have. They have that big concourse with the 42,
right,
and you go up the big escalators. Yeah. There should. You could even put the statue there.
That would be the place to do it because then it would get protected from the rain. But I think it'd be better for the outside just to, so everyone can see it.
Either way, you can figure it out one way or another. But it'll be interesting to see because if they are going to do this. They need to act quickly, and they should act quickly.
They have 6 months at the most because they're obviously doing some sort of 69 tribute. I'm not sure when. I'll look up on the break, but there's obviously some sort of tribute this year because a lot of players are getting older. A lot of them aren't even around anymore.
Tom Seaver's 74, and it's a 50-year anniversary, so he was 24 on that team, and you have to figure he was one of the younger players on that team because. Let's face it, baseball players are playing in their 30s, and back then 35 was considered old. But still, 24 is young, so you figure most of the players from that team are somewhere between 75 and 80 these days.
Yep.
That's the ones that are still around, let's face it, I hate to say it, but they're probably not going to be around much longer.
That's true. Also, the great number, for you think about today, and you think about, guys like Seaver and that generation. He had 231 complete games.
That's absurd.
It's
absolutely absurd.
It's incredible if you think about it.
I was looking at his stats, and he had seasons where he had more than 20 complete games. And nowadays, that's like the entire National League will have 20 complete games in a season. Yep. And that was Seaver was just one pitcher doing it. It was unbelievable. I looked up his numbers one year. I forget which year it was. I think it was 72. I think that was his best season. He had a 1.76 ERA. Basically, he had Jacob deGrom's year, except he went 20-10 that year.
Yep.
He was second in the Cy Young voting to Fergie Jenkins. And Fergie Jenkins had an even better year.
I know.
But both of them, Seaver pitched like 290 innings that year. It was unbelievable how much these guys worked. And when did Seaver get hurt? Never.
He was one of the first players to do weights.
But even forget the weights. It's like it just shows you, to me anyway, that all of this babying of pitchers that teams do is probably the opposite of what they should be doing.
Right.
Because back then pitchers had these absurd workloads, and all I know is it seems like they were better with it.
Right.
And there were fewer injuries, and nobody was blowing out their elbows and doing Tommy John surgery is imagine back then, if you had Tommy John surgery, you were done.
Yep.
There was no surgery to fix it.
Nope.
If you tore your ulnar collateral ligament, the UCL, done. See ya. Goodbye. Go work go be a businessman or go be a farmer or whatever your aspiration was before baseball took over. Now you're doing that.
Well, Seaver had the wine thing going for a
well. Now he does.
Well,
I don't think back then he would have become a wine maven.
Right.
If he would have suffered a career-ending injury.
So we're going to take a break right now. You're listening to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Give us a call at 516-572-7440 for any comments and questions. Tim, you're at Twitter at
Real Tim Leonard.
90.3 WHPC wants to let you know that Wednesday, April 17th, is our second ever WHPC Day at Miller's Ale House of Levittown. On Wednesday, April 17th, Miller's Ale House of Levittown is hosting a Give Back Day to support WHPC. More information can be found by searching for 90.3 WHPC on Facebook, at 903 WHPC on Twitter, or at 903 WHPC on Instagram. Miller's Ale House is located at 3046 Hempstead Turnpike in Levittown, across from the Tri-County Flea Market, where WHPC's Give Back Day is Wednesday, April 17th from 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. Thanks to you and Miller's Ale House of Levittown for supporting the non-commercial educational radio at the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
All hit music.
For all those songs radio has forgotten about, join me, Big Ed, Mondays from 10 a.m. till noon for The Good Gold Show. We'll bring back all the great hits of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and more. The sounds of doo-wop to disco, all the Motown, soul, and great rock and roll. We'll even take your requests and dedications to The Good Gold Show.
music.
On the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, and streaming on the iHeartRadio app.
A Super Bowl champion, U.S. Congressman, publisher of Long Island Business News, award-winning authors, physical fitness life coach, and celebrities like Billy Crystal and Eddie Murphy? I had no idea so many awesome people got their start at Nassau Community College.
Well, they're always saying that NCC is where success stories begin. With people like that as graduates, it must be true.
Hello, I'm Dr. Linda Nadian.
And I'm Aurora Workman, the president of Nassau Community College Alumni Association.
Together, we're the hosts of Lion Tales, a show that highlights proud graduates of Nassau Community College. Join us each week when distinguished alumni stop by to share stories, laugh a little, and remind us what things were like when they were students at Nassau Community College.
My fabulous friend Linda and I will also share the latest alumni news and updates, so tune in Tuesdays at 4 p.m. to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, or listen online with the iHeartRadio app.
90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Welcome back to another segment here of From the Press Box, here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. talking sports. I'm Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is award-winning sports writer, and yes, he is my brother, Tim Leonard. Hello, brother. How are you?
I'm good.
Saw the Monkees on Saturday with Ron Stevens and Steve Mandrasina at the Beacon. First of all, I love the Beacon.
Great theater.
And second of all, it was a great show. It was, what I think is probably the last shows of the Monkees, because there's only two left now.
Well, I was going to say, how did they replace Peter Tork?
Well, he wasn't on this part of the tour. It was called The Monkees Present Mickey Dolenz and Mike Nesmith, or Mike and Mickey, the opposite.
So where's Davey?
Well, Davey's been dead for...
Oh, really?
Did
he die? I thought Nesmith died.
Well, he almost died last year. Davey was in the best shape, and he had this massive heart attack and died. But he was in the best shape.
That's it. It's like Jim Fix, the runner guy.
Yeah. All of a sudden,
heart attack, keeled over. He was like 50-something.
Yeah, 52.
So I don't run.
Oh, yeah, that's the reason.
It is.
You've never ran. You haven't ran since you played soccer.
I don't run because I'm concerned for my health.
Oh, you're so full of crap. You're so full of it. Anyway.
Joe Gorman says he saw the Monkees last night on Facebook Live.
Yeah, we got a lot of people on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us there. Okay, brother, where do you want to start with? Well, we talked about the Mets.
Well, if we're going to continue with baseball, let's talk about the Yankees for a little bit. We need to get into this NFL stuff, brother. I know you seem very unwilling to discuss it. You didn't want to discuss the combine last week.
The combine is like this. I don't want to say it's the stupidest thing in the world.
No, it's not.
But it's the stupidest thing in the world.
It's not. It really
You want to know
isn't.
why?
Football fans love
because
this
it's,
stuff.
Okay.
They televise it. It gets big ratings.
Yeah, but who's watching it? But the gamblers.
But no, the gamblers don't watch it. They don't care about that stuff because those guys aren't affiliated with any teams yet. The people who watch it are the people who love football.
Yeah, the fantasy football
they
freaks.
The people who just love
the three
the
F's,
game.
as I call them. The three F's, the fantasy football freaks.
The people who love the game, the people who can't get enough.
Oh, come on.
Those are the people who are watching the combine.
That? You know, why don't you watch some local Little League game? It's the same thing.
No, because that's baseball. They want to watch football. They want to see who is the guy and which.
I'd rather watch the AAF. Which,
by
the way,
they
had
watch has-beens and guys who never made it.
Yes.
Then watch the future of the NFL.
And most of those guys are gone in 3 years. You know it.
No.
Yes. They are gone.
Incorrect.
We'll talk about the next break. I promise. Okay, brother.
Yes, bro.
Let's quickly talk about the Yankees. Is there anything happening with them? Are they gonna win the AL East, brother? That's the question.
Yes.
Over the Red Sox.
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay, just checking because some people out there might say the Red Sox are the best team in baseball.
Would you like to know why, brother?
Anything from my brother.
Bullpen.
The Yankees have a good bullpen.
Oh, the Yankees have maybe the best bullpen in baseball history.
History? You sure?
History.
You sure?
Yes, I am sure.
Okay, just checking.
Aroldis Chapman.
Okay.
Dellin Betances.
Okay.
Zach Britton.
Okay.
Chad Green.
Okay.
Adam Ottavino.
5 people? Do you need 5 people in the bullpen?
It's a little overkill.
It's a little overkill,
but
yeah.
You know what? That's how you win titles.
But it's overkill. These guys have to get used to be effective.
They will be used. They will
know.
be. You know what? You know what's going to happen? The Yankees are going to have so much excess. They don't have to use these guys every game, but they are going to have all of this excess, and that will allow them to keep guys fresh. So Adam Ottavino won't have to pitch 3 days in a row. He can pitch 2 days in a row, then he knows the next day he's going to have a break because Chad Green can do it. Or Dellin Betances can do it.
Does he order a pizza to the bullpen because he knows he's not getting a play?
No, they got all that stuff in the clubhouse. He doesn't have to order a pizza to the bullpen.
Saying,
Come on.
I'm just saying.
Don't be ridiculous.
You know, we've heard stories.
But that they have, and they can overcome an injury. If somebody gets hurt, doesn't matter. They have depth. They have an overwhelming depth. And I haven't even mentioned Stephen Tarpley, who's another guy. Tommy Canley, who had a shoulder issue last year, who's coming back. The Yankees have such a deep bullpen that they can withstand anything that happens. If Chapman gets hurt, like he did last year, had a knee issue last year, fine. Here's Zach Britton, who's been a closer before.
Okay.
Dellin Betances closed last year when Chapman went down for a couple of weeks. There's experience everywhere, and it's like having 4 or 5 closers. So that is the kind of bullpen that they have. Now, and that when I say that is the reason why they will win the AL East, the Boston Red Sox bullpen right now is a disaster. They don't know who their closer is.
Okay.
They think it's this guy Barnes, but they lost Joe Kelly. That was the goon who hit who hit what's his name? The guy that they traded to the Twins. I can't remember his name. But he drilled him and started a fight. But that, he went to the Dodgers. Kimbrel is still out there unsigned. He's probably one of the biggest names that is unsigned right now. Craig Kimbrel, the reliever. Dallas Keuchel is the other biggest name out there who's unsigned, the pitcher from the Astros. But that is what the Red Sox are so far over the salary cap now that any player they sign is going to cost them 150% against the salary cap. Wow. So if they sign somebody for $16 million, it's going to cost them $24 million against the cap.
So the Yankees, who used to be over the salary cap all the time, now are under the salary cap.
No, they're over it now.
No, they are now?
With they signed Ottavino late, and that pretty much pushed the Yankees
that
right
pushed
now.
them over, but they were under it before that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Right now, the Yankees, from the last time I read, they're at $220 million.
Okay.
And the cap this year, as far as I remember, is $206. So they're slightly over it. but they reset it last year because they were under it. So their luxury tax payment will be minimal this year.
Okay,
and it still gives them when CeCe Sabathia retires after the season, more than likely Brett Gardner will retire after the season. So they'll have some room. They should be under the cap again next year, depending on who they sign or which way they want to go.
Well,
but they're also going to have raises for the younger guys.
One of the good stories for the Yankees is going to be CeCe Sabathia's last year.
Love CeCe.
This guy is well loved in the clubhouse
and by the fans.
And the fans, he's a pitcher. He's a very good chance he's going to go to the Hall of Fame.
He's actually, and I don't know, I'm still kind of wondering how they're going to do this, but apparently he's going to be doing some commentary on ESPN this year.
Well, I'm not really sure. How does Jessica Mendoza do ESPN commentary and still be an advisor to the Mets?
That's easy. I mean, that's
how?
nothing. Because she works on ESPN one or 2 days a week.
But it's a conflict of interest in many ways.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No,
it's not like hiring. It's not like bringing back John Franco and saying, "Oh well, John Franco, yeah, he was."
She's an advisor, so she's going to help evaluate the system. She's gonna make suggestions as far as what maybe players they should go after or what certain.
But
players...
is she going to go on the air and say, "Well, I think this person is use some of her insight and use it on the game"? That's the question. No.
What does that even mean?
No. What it means is, let's say she has insight into certain players.
Okay.
And she secretly tells the Mets because that's her job as an advisor. But is she going to mention that same insight doing the games on ESPN?
There's no secrets in baseball. Let's put it
I'm
that
just
way.
saying.
First of all, let me just put that out there.
Well,
there are no secrets like that.
There are some secrets, Timmy.
But whether if she, I don't even know if she's evaluating other teams for the Mets. I think she's
just
more
evaluating the Mets.
I think she's more evaluating the Mets and their own team and their own system. I think that's what her job is. But if it is to help,
but is she going to come on the ESPN game and say, "Oh, the Mets are horrible this year"?
No,
they need this, and this.
First of all, I don't know how many ESPN games the Mets are going to do this year because they were terrible last year,
No.
and chances are they are not scheduled for very many ESPN
Well,
games.
they change it when the Mets become the leader in the NL East.
Yeah, that's optimistic.
I am being optimistic,
but.
Though I think Philly's going to be tough this year.
They're going to be very tough, and Washington is going to be very tough as well with that starting rotation. Wow. So that's two teams to worry about in a very bigly way. And the Braves are still the reigning champions, and they added third baseman Josh Donaldson, who was a former MVP. So they got better as well, not much better, but like they should have, but they did. But what we're looking at, I don't personally, I don't think it's any kind of a conflict. Just because if it was, then she would have stepped down from ESPN, or she would have turned down the Mets for the job, one way or the other. I mean, if the conflict was there, it would have been addressed. So she's working for the Mets in that capacity. I like I said on the show's Facebook page, our show from Pressbox is on Facebook. I think it's a good move for the Mets. I think I personally think that she is a good judge of the game. I think her baseball IQ is very high.
I do too.
And I think she could be a very underrated hire for the Mets. I think it's kind of a low risk, high reward kind of an addition for the Mets. Now, your premise that she's going to somehow unearth secrets of other organizations and then report back to the Mets. Obviously, these organizations now know that she works for the Mets as well. So they're not, maybe they don't tell her as much in a pregame conversation.
But as a member of the media, that sometimes you talk to players and sometimes things are off the record. And let's say she hears something off the record, does she have to bring it to the Mets? That's what I'm saying.
Well, obviously, you would expect that she would, but I don't think anybody is going to have an off-the-record conversation with her in that regard.
Let's say they're covering the Cubs game or something, and
right.
And some guy in the Cubs comes up to Jessica Mendoza and says, "Hey, Jessica, our starting pitcher's arm is shot. They haven't announced it yet, but he can't pitch the rest of the year." Does she go? Does he call the Wilpons up and say, "Hey, Jeffy, guess what? So and so can't pitch for the Cubs anymore." Just so you know.
But how would that not be public information in another day or two? And what impact would that have on the Mets?
How many times did someone go on the injury reserve list and they would like say, "What's wrong with him?" And they'd say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong. He's he needs to sleep or something." Whatever.
Sleep.
You know what I mean. They don't give you an answer. He needs a nap.
These aren't 5-year-olds.
I'm just saying, some of them are. Is Manny Machado going to be? He needs
Manny
a
Machado
nap.
needs a nap. That's for sure.
You see, there's one right there.
Yeah, but he's a baby. That's why.
Well, Anyway, so that's my only qualm with Jessica Mendoza. I like her as an announcer. I think when I've heard her on the games, I'm very happy with her.
I like her as an announcer. I'm not sure that I will have that many people who agree, but I think she's brought a lot to the broadcast. I don't really see any scenario from what you just said that it would help the Mets in any kind of discernible way. But even if it does, look, when she talks to people before the games, the ESPN people, they get together with the manager.
Right.
They sit down with the manager and they say, look, tell us what's going on. What have you been doing? And then maybe they get behind the batting cage and they'll have a conversation with a couple of players. Right. But it's all out in the open. It's all.
But I can see
nothing private going on there.
A loudmouth manager saying, "Hey, you got to go back to the Mets with what I just told you."
Then he's smart enough not to tell them.
Well, then he's not being as open.
I don't know why you think managers are idiots. They're managers. They're major league managers. They're pretty smart people.
Okay. Who's an idiot? Who's a manager? I don't know who's an idiot.
Go back to some Mets managers of the past.
George Bamberger.
There you go. George Bamberger would never be a manager these days.
No, he wouldn't.
But that's my point, is that guys are the managers are much more careful and much more wary of what they're putting out there. Especially ESPN is the media. Let's not forget that. They're not going to tell them secrets unless they want that quote unquote secret on the air. They know whatever they tell these people at ESPN is going on the air.
I know that. That's
especially if they're going to tell them about an injury or about something that hasn't been reported yet. Let's face it. I mean, those scenarios don't exist. It's not going to happen.
Okay. I'm just checking. Okay. Anyway, what else with the Yankees?
Masahiro Tanaka has been named the Yankees' opening day starter. As you recall, a couple weeks ago, brother, it was scheduled to be Luis Severino, who was third in the Cy Young voting last year. Third or second? I'm trying to remember now. I think it was third. But Severino is dealing with some shoulder inflammation in his rotator cuff and is going to be out for not quite another 2 weeks, but close to another 2 weeks. So he's not going to be ready for the season. Assuming everything goes well, I think Severino's just going to miss one start. I think they'll probably get him ready for his second start and maybe only throw him 4 or 5 innings at the most. But just to get him out there and instead of having him throw another rehab start, just put him out there and get him in a game situation. And that's where that great Yankees bullpen comes in, because if a starter goes 4 innings, they got plenty of guys in the bullpen that are capable of finishing out a game. So Tanaka will be the opening day starter. That was announced. The other thing, this was kind of sad news. Babe Ruth's last surviving daughter, Julia Ruth Stevens, she died on Saturday. She was 102 years old.
Wow. So
that was the daughter that was adopted by Babe Ruth and his wife when she was an infant. So, and that was like something, I don't even remember, obviously 102 years ago, but just what a remarkable lifespan, 102.
And Babe lived to,
Babe didn't live very long.
No, he had a good time though.
But so that's sad news.
I'm sure they'll do some sort of tribute, probably during Old Timers Day.
She was still like throwing out first pitches in her 90s.
Well, she was showing up at Old Timers Game. Remember
and she was kind of pretty opinionated about some subjects as well. She was not shy about speaking her mind. That's for sure.
Let's quickly talk about the Islanders. The Islanders who were in first place and they
slumping.
They are
slumping. It's not going well lately.
There's a bad mid-season slump for them, which is not what you want at this point.
It's kind of a late season slump at this point.
Yeah, they've been 4-6 the last 10 games.
Dropped into second place, 4 points behind the Washington Capitals.
Yep,
that's not a good thing.
And
2 points ahead of the Penguins. It's getting congested there in the Metropolitan Division.
Yes, it is. And
the Islanders swept the home-and-home series with the Ottawa Senators. They got 5-4 and 4-2 victories. But sandwiched around those two games were a pair of losses to the Flyers. And Johnny Boychuk just took completely a cheap hit from this goon on the Flyers, Jacob Voracek. Boychuk was going into the corner. Voracek had the puck, and Boychuk was going to put a hit on him. That's what he does. That's what he's supposed to do. And Voracek turned and raised his shoulder up and hit Boychuk right in the head.
Yeah.
And wound up getting 2-game suspension for it because Boychuk had to be taken off the ice. I mean, put in a concussion protocol. It was just totally a cheap shot. And what makes it worse? Flyers Twitter. The Philadelphia Flyers official Twitter account. The official Twitter account said later in the game. I mean, first of all, the Flyers aren't even a playoff team. So why they cop this attitude is beyond me. But now it says the tweet read, quote, now Komarov goes after Voracek. The Isles want to make sure they lead on the stat sheet in something, so they're racking up the penalty minutes. Bold strategy.
Wow.
I wish I knew who the Flyers Twitter guy was because I'd go down to Philly and
it's probably
smack him in the head.
The media relations guy, probably.
Smack him in the head. You know, a guy gets a cheap shotted and probably winds up with a concussion, and they're making jokes about it.
Yeah, you can't make fun of concussions.
Are you kidding me?
You can't. You can make fun of it now, like with Joe Namath and Ben Davidson, where Ben Davidson wanted to put Joe Namath's head through.
He tried
Shea Stadium's ground.
He tried multiple times. That was back then when they didn't care about protecting quarterbacks.
And
now they do.
And Joe, sort of has a laugh at it. Meanwhile, Joe's having nightmares probably still about that. But anyway, the Islanders are in second place.
They need to get it back, and they need to get Robin Leonard back. The goalie is he's another guy. He's on the sidelines right now. He took a hit to the head, and he's in a concussion protocol too. So now they get the backup. I don't even remember the guy's name, but Grice is now starting most of the games, and they need to get that tandem back because that goalie tandem is the strength of the team, as far as I'm concerned.
It reminds me of Smith Resch when that was the big thing.
When you needed two goalies, and these guys have been the backbone all season. And I think that's probably a part of why in recent games. I mean, the Leonard injury just happened a few games ago, but I think it's kind of disrupted the equilibrium of the team. I think a little bit, but they need to get back to playing the defensive hockey and doing what they need to do to win games more. 2-1, 3-2, and that kind of game. They've kind of gotten a little bit away from that recently, but I have faith in Barry Trotz, and I'm sure he'll take care of things and get them ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, and we should say the Islanders' first round will be at the Coliseum. Matter of fact, there was a nice promo I saw on MSG Plus about the Islanders and playing at the Coliseum. And the thing I liked about it was all the footage on the outside was before they put the aluminum siding on it.
Can I tell you, I saw something the other day. Clark Gillies is so excited about the playoffs coming to Nassau Coliseum. He said, look, he says, I'm going to be involved. I don't know what kind of role I'm going to have, but I am going to be involved. And if for whatever reason the team can't use me in some kind of role, then I'll be out in the parking lot tailgating with people. He goes, that's how excited I am for the playoffs to be back at Nassau Coliseum. I want to tailgate with Clark Gillies. How do we make this happen?
Well, this is what you do. Clark, if you're listening, Section 229 at the Coliseum. It's 329 in the Barclays. Section 229 is where the diehard fans are. I know 3 different people in that group they go to all the home games. They party when they have an away game. They all party at the same bar. 229. Go right there. Just ask for Lisa or Ted.
Forget 229. I want to party with them in the tailgate parking lot. Look for a gray Honda. That's my brother.
They tailgate in the parking lot too. That's where they start. Then they go inside, and they're the loudest section.
Anybody who knows Clark Gillies, get a hold of him. Tell him to call in and tell him. Let's work this out. I need to lock this down.
No, definitely.
I want to hang with Clark Gillies.
We're going to take a break right now. You're listening to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. We'll be back right after this.
Okay.
Go.
Tell your friends about the Nassau Morning Madhouse. Hear what you're missing.
Check it out.
Check it out.
we're talking about, oh man, someone's choice of a food item that they use to use it as a weapon. So Florida man yesterday smashed his wife in the face, right?
Nicely.
With a Taco Bell burrito.
This man's a legend.
Causing some to go up into her nose. No. According to police, who arrested the suspect on a domestic battery charge.
He better have said something cool right before throwing it. Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Live mas.
Yeah, live mas.
Live mas.
Live no mas.
The Nassau Morning Madhouse. Weekday mornings from 7 to 9. On the voice of Nassau Community College.
90.3 WHPC.
You want the news? You can't handle the news.
Dude, that's a little dramatic, don't you think?
News, wherefore art thou news?
Still dramatic.
It was the best of news. It was the worst of news.
Seriously?
All right, I give up. It's just the news.
Get all the day's news all in one place. All from the students at the Voice of Nassau Community College.
My mama always said life was like a box of news. You never know what you're going to get.
Unbelievable.
The WHPC 4:30 News Wrap-Up. Weekday afternoons at, 4:30 on 90.3 WHPC.
WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College and winner of the 2019 Community College Radio Station of the Year, according to the IBS people, the Intercollegiate Broadcasting System.
We're the best.
We're the best. We rock, and we're not giving it up. We're gonna have like a 5-year run.
It's gonna be a run.
So it's gonna be a run.
I sense the beginning of a dynasty.
I hope so.
Yankee-like dynasty.
Yankee-like. Why not a Met?
Islanders-like dynasty.
I like Islanders better.
There's no Met dynasty. What Met dynasty?
85 to 88. They were.
How many World Series did they win between 85 and 88?
One. That's because they
not
didn't have the
a
stupid.
dynasty.
They didn't have the stupid wild card.
No. End of discussion.
They were
Not
the
a dynasty.
best team. They
Not
were the best
a
team
dynasty.
in the league from 85 to 88.
All right, that's good. The Cubs between 2014 and 2015 and 2018. They've won more games than anybody in baseball.
Okay.
Is that a dynasty?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
A dynasty is not a why not response. If you have to say why not, it's not a dynasty.
Okay.
Plain and simple.
Anyway, I'm just looking online at the guy who hit the player. It wasn't even a big hit.
Whoa! Are you kidding me?
He didn't even get his.
Please stop talking. Stop
talking. It looked like he was giving him like a headlock.
What was the fan doing there? First of all, just to give everybody some background, Aston Villa midfielder. We're talking about the English Championship League, not the Premier League. Jack Grealish was assaulted on the pitch. That's what they call the field over there.
Yeah.
By a Birmingham fan yesterday.
Ooh.
This coward Birmingham fan came somehow he got through security. They were at their stadium, so that's probably why. But they got through security and came running up behind this player and just cold cocked him from behind, right cross to the side of the head, the side of the jaw, and was then tackled and secured by the security that was following him. One of the first things that first of all, there's outrage about this and the fact that it was allowed to happen, and that a fan got onto the field to attack a player. That is unallowable. I hope that Birmingham gets penalized to whatever extreme they can, and I'm talking about losing points in the standings, like 10 points.
Well,
because this
it's not like they did it.
This can't. No,
it can't.
It can't be allowed to happen. And security is the home team's. That's their responsibility. So the fact that a fan, a drunken idiot of a fan, was allowed to get onto the field and to get so far as being able to make contact with him. What if this guy had a knife? That's the simple question.
To
Monica Seles.
Monica Seles.
But what if he had a knife? then Jack Grealish is probably dead right now.
That's true.
All right? So that's why...
I'm having fun with it, but yeah, you're right.
That's why there is outrage about this, because you can't allow...
But I assume...
fans can boo, they can
have
curse.
metal detectors at these games?
They can do what...
You've been to some of these games.
They don't have metal detectors. They have... fans are frisked out. And when I say frisked, I've seen footage of the frisking. Oftentimes, they don't even touch the people. It's just like it's a gratuitous pat down, but the fact that this guy, the worst part to me, well, I don't want to say the worst part, because the worst part was obviously him punching this player and being allowed to. I couldn't believe that nobody just wasted this guy. He was brought down.
Right.
The players didn't even kick him or anything. I couldn't believe it. If I was a player, that guy would have had left the field with cleat marks, because I would have stomped him a couple of times. But then when he was being led off the field, the security guy had one arm behind his back, and with the free arm, the guy was blowing kisses to the fans. If I'm the security guy...
Were they cheering him?
Yeah. And if I'm the security guy and I see that, I'm giving a yank on his arm and say, "Oh, sorry, I broke your arm." You moron. Get off the field.
Well...
I couldn't believe...
The fact that he didn't have a knife, the fact that the fans are cheering, he's going to react to it. If they were booing him or throwing bricks at him or something...
It's his own fans.
Right,
that's the problem.
That's you're right.
He needed a beating. That's what he needed. And he needed a public beating. The security... The one of the problems, like I said, one of the problems that I had was this guy running onto the field exposed the fact that most of the security there are fat old men. Because they chased him and they couldn't catch up to him. So why do you have all these fat old men as security? Why not have a couple of young guys as security who can actually chase this guy down and tackle him?
I have no problem with that.
It was unbelievable to me how slow these guys reacted to what was going on. So there were a couple of copycat episodes after that. That's why I say that there needs to be a penalty, and it needs to be the strongest possible penalty, because you can't allow this kind of stuff to happen. English Premier League and the Championship, the fans are right on the field. You know, I sat at a Tottenham match one time. I sat in the lower bowl. I was 10 feet away from the field.
Right.
And the sideline is maybe not even another 10 feet. So you're that close to the players. I mean, I was taking pictures with my little, point and shoot camera. That's how close you are. I didn't need a big lens. Point and shoot.
Well,
zoom, boom.
It
You got
reminds
a nice
me
picture.
in a different way. Years ago, there was a thing with seemingly with Yankee fans, where they would jump out onto the field and try to touch second base. You remember?
No, I don't.
I don't. There was a couple of times it happened. And what they did was they stopped showing it. And
they've never shown it. For Americans in baseball, it's been common now that if somebody runs on the field, they don't show it.
Right.
They'll say something about it. They'll say something about it, and they say, "Oh, we got an idiot on the field, so the play is stopped." But they won't show the person running around the field, and that's a good way to handle it. But with this, the shot that was on the telecast, you saw the guy. Just before it was some kind of graphic came through, and then they had to go back to it because it was like, what's going on? This guy just punched Aston Villa's best player. So I just, like I said, I hope that whatever is done. First of all, I'm sure this guy will be suspended from any soccer game ever again.
Sure,
not just Birmingham, but he should never be allowed to attend the match, and obviously that's very difficult to enforce because he's one person among thousands of people.
Well, there's a lot of facial recognition. You remember that guy with the snowball years ago at Giant Stadium?
Yeah. It was ice.
It was ice. I'm sure he has probably gotten back in, I'm sure, over the years. But who knows? It's a facial recognition thing now.
But it needs to be dealt with swiftly because, like I said, there were copycat issues over the weekend, and to stop this before it becomes a thing,
right.
They need to say, all right, look, if people start invading the pitch, we're going to start taking points away from your team.
Well,
and if you want to hurt your team, fine, go ahead.
I agree. I have no problem with that. Very quickly, brother, since you actually covered the 1999 women's soccer World Cup team.
Yes.
It seems like
probably the highlight of my sports writing career, by the way.
And I know how much you've enjoyed covering them, and they were great to you and everything. There's new controversy with the team again. They seem to win World Cups while the men's team, last time the men's team didn't even qualify. There seems to be a problem with paying and salaries and stuff. And we're trying to figure out, is it because the Soccer Federation hates women, or is it more likely the fact that, sadly, women's soccer doesn't make as much money sponsor-wise as men's soccer?
I think it's maybe a small part the former and largely the latter. At least that's what I hope it is. I mean, the fact of the matter is this: the women's team is very popular in this country.
Oh,
but
they win. That's why,
because they win. Exactly. They've represented this country well. They've won tournaments. They've won Olympic gold medals. They've won World Cups, and they have been
the last World Cup where the U.S. won. The ratings were incredible. In
yes,
that. The women's team.
Agreed. But the problem is if you schedule a women's international game in the United States in a non-World Cup year, you'll be lucky to get 15,000 people in the stadium. Mm-hmm. And that is, as much as I would love to sit here and say, well, yes, the women should be paid as much as the men, and it shouldn't be any kind of discussion, you have to factor in the economics.
Yeah.
And you can't just blindly say, well, yes, the women should be paid as much as the men. Well, if they don't bring in the same amount of revenue, if you have a men's match, let's put it this way, if you scheduled a men's match, and the opponent almost doesn't matter, but let's just say, for example, England. All right, schedule a men's match, MetLife Stadium, men against England. That stadium's going to be sold out, right. and it'll be sold out probably within a couple of hours. All right, if you schedule a women's match at MetLife Stadium against England, like I said, 15, maybe 20,000 at the most, and you have to give away 50,000 tickets if you want the stadium to be full.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because
and it is because I like watching our women play, and it might not be the same brand of soccer, but I love watching our women play because they're good. And they dominate games for the most part, and even against top competition, it turns into a very good game. It's a hard-fought game. It's a very competitive game. So I can kind of understand it, and I certainly understand and empathize with their claims as far as how they should be paid. And I couldn't agree more. I wish they were paid more. But if you look at it from an economic standpoint, it's difficult to justify. Because the money isn't there, and if the money's not there, that's where the salaries are coming from.
Right, the sponsorships and everything else.
And if U.S. soccer isn't making as much from the women's game as it is from the men's game, then the money isn't going to be there as much of it anyway for the players. That's fact. Yeah. That's why the salaries in the WNBA are lower than they are in the NBA, because the NBA sells out. The NBA has huge TV contracts. The WNBA doesn't on either one of those.
And I think the WNBA is, if it wasn't connected with the NBA, I think it might have went out of business by now. Unfortunately,
it's entirely
possible. They've had some good games. They have good players playing. It's not like they don't have good players. It's just that for whatever reason they're not drawing or getting the TV eyes that you would hope. Hey, I still think one of the greatest goals I ever saw in a soccer match was Carly Lloyd when she took that half-field shot.
From half-field, yeah.
That's one of my favorite
against
shots.
China.
Oh, my God. Because that's something I would have done in my prime.
What?
As a matter of fact, I did do it once. So.
What?
You weren't there.
Yeah, obviously.
I'll tell you afterwards. But I love that fact because she saw the goalie was way up.
It was a heady play, and only great players make that play. Right. David Beckham has made a play like that. Pele has made a play like that.
Right.
Because they have the vision and they have the belief in their abilities that, you know what, I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
And if it works, it's a pretty impressive thing to do.
By the way, brother, just a little quick programming reminder. Every Sunday at 9 a.m., new time, by the way, High Fidelity with host Kim Tracy, playing a mix of music that focuses on newer releases and lesser-known artists. So that's High Fidelity every Sunday at 9 a.m. right here on 90.3 WHPC. The voice of Nassau Community College. Brother, we have about 30 seconds. Anything else you want to add?
Well,
it's a quick show.
Yes, the Jets, they have an agreement for a trade in principle with the Raiders for guard Kelechi Osemele, who is a former Pro Bowler. That's going to cut into their salary cap money that they're going to have for Wednesday, but well worth it because they need the O-line to protect Sam Darnold. The Giants have traded Olivier Vernon, pass rushing specialist, to the Cleveland Browns for guard Kevin Zeitler, another offensive line upgrade for the Giants, so that's good to see.
Okay, that just about does it for the show. I am Rob Leonard. Of course, every week I am joined by award-winning sports writer Tim Leonard. Tim, you're at Twitter at
Real Tim Leonard.
See you next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.
The views expressed on air are not necessarily those of WHPC, its management, or Nassau Community College. Responsible opposing viewpoints will be considered by emailing them to whpc@ncc.edu or by mail at WHPC 1 Education Drive, Garden City, New York 11530. Thanks for listening to the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.